What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Cover Killer Nation back again for another video, and this video is actually going to be a follow-up to one of my previous videos, which was, of course, the Lilith Immaculate Cradle of FIlth video, where I reviewed the upcoming single from the album Darkly, Darkly, Venus AVERSA, which was going to be released by Cradle of FIlth the 2nd of this month. However, I will say one thing, here in America, especially at my store, the damn thing hasn't shown up yet. Yeah, probably will not be showing up until next Tuesday, so if you came to a local store this past Tuesday to try to find the album and you didn't find it, don't be alarmed, this is just something that happened. So, you might be wondering how I got it. Well, we have it, it's just, you know, can't put it on shelves. Shit happens. At any rate, Darkly, Darkly, Venus AVERSA from Cradle of FIlth. Cradle of FIlth, as I mentioned in the previous video, is amongst the most celebrated metal bands that come from England ever since Iron Maiden. And of course, we all know just how popular and how beloved Iron Maiden is in their home country, let alone around the world. Cradle of FIlth really having this title kind of, well, it pales in comparison to Maiden, as Maiden is just exponentially really respected and revered. However, Cradle of FIlth having that distinction definitely is a testament to their career. Now, this is a band that, as I mentioned before, kind of strayed away from the parts of their earlier career where they were a little bit more along the side of blackened extreme metal, and has kind of faded more into a little bit of like a blackened thrash with a little bit of really extreme, really horror type metal sounds that you could really hear. Really good music maybe for Halloween, something that if you were to put vocalists up there that would kind of give you a little bit of a creepy feeling, either that or that are really, really distinctive, Danny Filth certainly would be high on that list. And this is something that's been well known in the metal community for roughly about 15 years, so this isn't exactly new information. Darkly, Darkly, Venus AVERSA here, released in 2010, is unfortunately what I would just call just another Cradle of FIlth album. And that's something that's unfortunately become very true and kind of become the norm for a little while. It's not so much an album where you can't say that you don't like it, however, it's not an album where you can particularly say that it's going to knock you on your ass, that it's really fantastic, that it's something that you're really going to remember for the rest of your life. With Iron Maiden, especially during the 1980s, they seem to be consistently putting out albums that were not only memorable, but also an important part of metal lore. So, by using that comparison, if you really want to, I really think it's an unfair comparison. However, I'm going to use it simply because it's been used before. Cradle of FIlth definitely is not a band that really is reminiscent of that, for me at least, or at least not with this most recent run of albums, which include Nymphetamine and Godspeed on the Devil's Thunder. Darkly, Darkly, Venus AVERSA, like I said, is not a bad album. It's an album that really is kind of average, and as I said, just really focuses in and really just strikes me as just another album by these guys. It's one that I've listened to a couple of times, and it's not so much that there's nothing to really write home to mother about. There's nothing really memorable about this. Danny, of course, still retains his ridiculous range of highs and lows. This is something that is seen really on every track. They're still able to write some fantastic songs, such as the Persecution song, which is a song that I definitely like, and their style has seemed to maintain itself on that black and thrash, black and death style of scenario. However, this is something where they are a distinctive band that really has their own identity, and it's something that really has served them well. Fans of this band, especially recent fans, will certainly not be disappointed with this particular release. However, as I said, whenever I look at the last couple of albums down the line, I really don't see the difference between one and the next. It's really just my opinion. Now, this is a concept album. This is an album that's really based off of Lilith, which is, of course, the wife of Adam of legend. I mean, this is something that's supposed to be biblical. However, if you peer into the Bible itself, you will never find any recollection of this unless you really do some digging. However, this is a little bit more of a modern uptake, as though they fast-forwarded the infusion of Lilith into the society many decades, many centuries and millennia later, should I say. So it's a little bit more of a modern take on it, though it still has a very old-style feel to it, which is something that they've always been very well at doing. I mean, they've been very good at doing this. If you remember correctly, Cradle of FIlth are a group that really worships a lot of the works by Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, and Lord Byron, so the lyric writing is extremely poetic and very well done. This is something that's always been somewhat of a strength for Danny Filth and the boys in the band, so this is not to be unexpected. So, looking through this particular album booklet is going to be almost as though reading an epic novel or an epic poem, so this is something that's It's always a little bit enjoyable for a listener that really likes to be interactive with their music. The music itself, I would say the one positive has, of course, been the inclusion of the female from Abigail Williams. This is definitely a positive change from Sarah Jezebel Deva, who I think, as her career with Cradle of FIlth was coming to an end, it was becoming kind of dry, it was becoming almost expected, and in reality, because of that, was becoming quite boring. On the earlier albums, her voice definitely seemed to have a lot more life to it, it seemed to have a lot more substance, and because of that, her parts were very powerful and complemented Danny Ville's very, very nicely. Now with this new inclusion, it seems fresh again, and that's something that's certainly a positive. The music is something that remains very unchanged, as I mentioned earlier. It still has that very thrashed attack to it. There's still the inclusion of the keyboards, which is once again also done by the former member of Abigail Williams, and it's just a very nice little update as well, because this is something that was part of their music before, however, definitely a fresh take a little bit. This is something that has happened now for 2 albums, and it's something that I believe is definitely memorable and something that I really recall very fondly during my listens of this particular record. However, as I said, that's still not enough for me to really just dismiss this as just another release by this particular band. And that's something that can be somewhat of a positive if the band's previous couple releases were very, very memorable. However, for me, they're just not albums that I revisit a lot. If I'm going to revisit albums by this particular artist, it's going to be either Bittersweets to Succubee, Midian, or Principles of Evil Made Flesh, Dusk and Her Embrace. Really the elder scrolls of their career, so to speak. So perhaps it's just a mere taste problem. Perhaps it's just something that they have done that I just don't agree with. I'm not particularly too sure. However, it just seems to me like maybe my love of this band was exceptionally short-lived, as it was these guys were a band where I really supported hardcore for about a period of 1.5 years to 2 years, and then gradually sort of faded off the bandwagon, so to speak. So I gotta say that from a musician's perspective, there's a lot of thrashing. There's just a lot of very quick riffs. There's a lot of good transitions. The solos aren't too bad, you know. I have to give them credit for the drum work as well, and also, like I mentioned before, the keyboard work is definitely stunning. So overall, this is an album that I doubt will make the top 20 list. This is something that I believe will be kind of on the outside looking in whenever we make it to December 31st, and I have to recall the albums that were here in 2010. However, if you're a fan of this band, this is going to be an album that will satisfy you. However, for myself personally, I may listen to it another 1 or 2 times, and then it'll probably just sit and collect dust. If you don't like it, fuck you. Stay tuned for another Cover Killer review. Coming soon.